Okay, it's now live. It says.
It's live now. Okay, fine. Super.
So I clicked it for my wife. She can't see it.
Okay. You can see the thing has come on now.
No, not too adept at all this, but anyway.
It will take a minute or two to get onto the.
It's going to a page with Binal Sen on the cover.
It will go to, yeah, the Kahani Kanchiti page in Facebook.
So Binal Sen is on the cover, and there is a.
Yeah, so Binal Sen is on the cover. That will come there. That is somewhere it will appear as Facebook Live.
Is this where it's going to come on?
Yeah, that's where it's going to come on. Yeah.
You wait for a while. Yeah, I got a message from my sister in the US saying it's unable to connect.
Unable to connect. Well, it should be connecting in any time now. I have not seen it on my thing also, but it will happen.
These things take a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it says live stream Zoom meeting for Facebook Live. It's on. That's what it says here. So it should be on. And I think the best thing is that while people are still queuing in, yeah, it is on Facebook. That's what it says here. So it should be on. Yeah, ask them to refresh it once in a while.
Yeah, the connection in the US is happening. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I think we are on, and I think we can now start the little chat. So I think the Facebook, we are live on Facebook right now. So I think I'll start this session by welcoming those who have already tuned in, and maybe they'll be tuning in time to come. Kahani Kancheti. So for those of you who are coming up for the first time, let me give you a short two-liner about Kahani Kancheti. Kahani Kancheti is a digital platform where we discuss anything and everything from cinema to theater to books to all kinds of things that we can actually deliberate on. And we also keep holding a lot of books, authors, chats. We discuss films, we discuss theater, online, over chats, and even music for that matter. We have had chat shows on BB King to Dylan to Kaleem Sharafi to Usha Ganguly. We have done a lot of work with the Hungarianist movement in Bengali literature. We have also done Arun Kolatkar and Faiz Ahmed Faiz. So every aspect of what we think is part of the culture section. So we keep calling this Kahani Kanchiti as conversing culture. As a part of one of our regular programs, what we do is that we have authors chats. This is one of the almost regular things that we do. And today we have in this authors chat, we have a book translating for Rituparno. This is some of his scripts which have been translated into English and published by the Jadavpur University Press. They are the ones who have published that book. And the author or person who has done that, Anjana Basu, is here with us. So I'll first give you a small introduction to Anjana, uh, and then I will move on to Abeer. Well, Anjana is often referred to a lot of my friends in advertising as the tigress in the business. Now, why she is the tigress is because she has been writing books about tigers and promoting tigers for children. And if you look at her Facebook page, every day some tiger pops up, either a dancing tiger or whatever. Then one day I asked her that, how did you get into this tiger thing? Are you into tiger preservation, tiger conservation? She said, no, somewhere up in the hills in I think the Corbett, somebody said, what can we write about? And she said, tiger. So that's how I think something like that happened and the whole process of tiger happened. She has been a very old advertising colleague and we have known each other for a very long time. And she's a very good friend of Kahaaniadda. I must say this. She reviews books, particularly for Penguin. And once in a while, she just sent it to me and said, you can publish this. So we are looking for book reviews. So here comes one from Anjana, and there we are. And she also connects me with a whole lot of authors of the world, because once we have started a short story section in our webpage, and Anjana would connect me to everybody. And she even connected me to Shibu. And Shibu initially enthusiastically wrote a couple of stories, but the last one we wrote was one of his dirty jokes. So I had to stop that, short story business. Great fun. And Abeer again, and I go down many, many years. There was a time when I was in Kolkata, and there was a time we were all in Kolkata and we all were in advertising. And so Abeer, you will not remember this, but when you were in HTA, it was then HTA, and I was in, I think, ASP or something like that. On the Bata account, the agencies had a scrap on some billing problem with the TV. You will not remember, nor will I. But I remember you and I used to write letters to each other saying that, this is to be done and that is not to be done. Yeah, we did that for a while. 2-3 letters were exchanged. So Abeer was there with HTA, and this is where the 1998 to 1988 to 1997, Abeer came on to Response as executive director. Response run by Ram Ray. And then he moved to Bates in Kolkata and Dhaka. And that is when in 2012 or 13, when my book Life in a Rectangle was being launched, and Abeer and all helped me to launch the book at Oxford. And that was a long time later. I went back to the Clarion office. So now, why Abeer and Anjana and I am only the anchor over here is that Rituparno and is also Response. And both Anjana and Abeer have worked with Ritu very closely at Response. That's number one. And number two is that Rituparno's foray into filmmaking started at Response. And Anjana has been a part of, he and Ritu have been collaborating ever since, I think the first film that we know is, I think, Hire Rangti, from where they started off. And and Abeer was witness to all this and a part of all that. So I would, in fact, like to start off by actually asking Abeer that when all this was happening and you were the boss man at Response. Now, when I say you were the boss man at Response, I must also tell my audience that from time to time, you will find that Ram Ray will drop into our discussions. He has to. He'll drop in, he'll drop out. And because it is Response, it is Abeer, it is Anjana, and it is Rituparno. So how did the whole system work with then Rituparno, a Bengali copywriter, often attributed to have done Bongo Jimone Rongo, which was again not his, but tell us something about the time of Response, and let's start from there. We need a starting point, and you have to unmute yourself.
Tech. Yeah. So actually, I was a client for Response. I got Response in to launch the fruity mango drink in Calcutta. And, we are having a big battle with the parlays in Bombay, who wanted a very Bombay kind of a campaign coming in for the launch in Calcutta. So after a big struggle, we got a response to a Bengali campaign, and that's where I first bumped into Rituparno. And that campaign was phenomenal because the brand had suffered very badly in Bombay and some other places because of a scare on the an ingredient which apparently caused diarrhea for children, which later denied in page 5 in Times of India. But there was a big challenge, and we said that if we want to really establish the brand with this background, you have to get very local, and the Durga Puja is a fantastic occasion to do it. So Rituparno came out with this fantastic campaign. এবার পুজোয় নতুন জুটি আপনি এবং something fruity. I forget the exact thing, but somewhere I have written it. But anyway, so there was several of these really nice lines, and the campaign was spread all over, and it was phenomenal because we ran out of stocks, and there was local distributor threatening us with a knife. And I would attribute the success of the brand to a very, very large scale and significantly what Rituparno and Ram and team did for Fruity. And then I crossed over and I joined Ram. And then I was amidst this whole gang, very eclectic, very energetic, young, boisterous, joyous, everything you could say. It was fantastic, that environment. And they were doing some really good work. And so that's where, and we were, really good, happy bunch. And Rituparno was churning out these incredible Bengali campaigns, which was originally taught in Bengali, unlike most other Bengali campaigns earlier. And I think perhaps Response was the only one doing it that time, and it was because of Rituparno. And then, as he said himself in an interview, that it was his grooming ground, because he always wanted to make films. His father was a documentary filmmaker, as you know. And his eye was on that, but he was 22 when he joined Response. And most people in Response, barring Ram and I, were in their 20s. And then he was very interested in making films. And we weren't making many films, but finally we got we got an agency in Bangladesh who was working for BAT, the cigarette company, and they wanted a campaign. And those days, there was, people from Bangladesh came across clandestinely suitcase of cash to pay for, because it was not legal. So anyway, then Rituparno developed these 3 films for BAT, and it was his first time, and he was grappling with it, but he was crazily intensely involved with it. And finally he went to Dhaka, which was again a very adventurous trip. He went with Topon to Dhaka to present the campaign, and that was it. And then of course the Borderline Bengali films started happening. And even he would grab anything to do with films there. And there was a opportunity. There was some client who had a bauxite mine in Doda. And we are all ready to go to Doda, where he had to cart everything on donkey's back. And, he wasn't bothered. He wanted to go there. But before we could reach there, the place got bombed out. So that was the end of the document. But yeah, he was very interested in films. He grabbed every opportunity to do it.
But tell me something. I understand that the filmmaking arm of Response, called, I think, Tele-Response or something like that.
Yeah.
There was an assignment, I think, for a film which was funnily called Vande Mataram. Now, I don't know whether it was a patriotic film or a part of what, but have any of you actually seen that film? Because that seems to be one of his many films lost.
The memory fades me on that. I don't remember.
Okay, no, this is somewhere, something
it was shown on Doordarshan, I gather, but that's about it.
Okay. Anjana, now tell us, from where and when did you start first working as a colleague, and what was he working as a colleague in the creative department of Response, and when did you start collaborating on the cinema with Rituparno? Because you have done all his subtitling in English for, I think, almost all his films. You have collaborated in the scripts, almost all. So so tell us where you and Ritu started.
Well, suddenly the scruffy haired guy popped into HTA actually and said, there is this Bangla campaign for Fun Munch, which is a brand of chips that Response was
Ah,
launching.
yeah,
Yeah, Abeer,
yeah, I
you've
remember
forgotten
that.
that, have you?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So Rituparno came to me and said, will you do the English version of it? Now, this was odd because I actually never freelanced anyway. Suddenly, and I couldn't figure out how the hell I had come into this. But I said, okay, I will try. And he had these long words. I mean, do you remember those words he had for Fun Munch? Mm, it
I
was a
don't
long,
remember.
yeah,
Fun
it
to
was a
munch,
long,
fun to munch. Yeah,
no,
it was
that was
a
ultimately
very successful brand of chips. Yeah,
Fun to Munch was what I ultimately turned it into. But he said, do something like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
yeah,
What,
I
what,
remember.
what? Come again, come again, come again.
He
What did you
said
say?
to me,
That was a brief.
do, do something like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. So I thought, nope, I ain't doing nothing of that sort. But whatever it was, I did. And it seemed to go down very well. And he was very happy. He said, এটা তো বাংলাটা ইংরেজিটা ভালোই হয়েছে. And gradually, at the end of it, from HTA, I hopped into Response.
Okay,
And
okay,
this collaboration continued. I was
okay.
translating him.
You were translating him, but but by the time had Hire Auntie started? Had he
No,
was
no, no,
that film?
no, no. Hang on a sec. I started by
Okay.
translating his ads.
Oh, acha.
Thereupon, the thought of the film was there. Suddenly,
Hmm.
one day, he sprang his first script, which was Pagla Sahebe Kobor, actually,
Hmm. Hmm.
Shishendu. And I was plonked at a response computer, which was in the main room next to Ram's library. And in between doing anything, I was busy translating Pagla Sahebe Kobor. And
Okay.
Pagla Sahebet Kobor didn't work out. So he said,
Okay.
okay, that হলো না, ঠিক আছে. Thereupon came Hire Ankti. So again, I was sitting there translating Hire Ankti. And I'm not quite sure. I mean, everybody knew I was doing that sitting there in between doing other things, but that was how it actually began. And
Okay. But tell me something with Ramda in the agency. Did you see the whole thing of okay, Rituparno making and you getting into films? I mean, just out, I mean beyond ad films into some kind of a feature, Chota Kato. And then of course you all were very. Then Unishe April happened almost thereafter. I
Yeah.
think somewhere
yeah.
in 1992, Unishe April was happening.
Hmm.
So, how did this whole thing work out? Sitting in the agency, working for a filmmaker who I think everybody, including Ramda, must have encountered. But just one thing before I get into that. Ritu did not have any agency experience prior to Response, right?
No,
If my
No,
no.
no,
no,
And how did he land up in Response?
no idea. The people
honestly,
like him, very bright,
Hon-
intelligent, just landing up at response. It was kind of, you know, attracting a lot of talent. We had
Right.
Sumanto, the MBA from McGill and all that, and he landed up at response. We had all kinds of creative people, young people wanting to be there, and response was a happening place, you know. So I don't know.
Yeah.
And we had the Borolin account, so maybe he wanted to, get into a copywriter's job,
Sure.
and he got
Sure.
invited in.
Sure. Sure. Okay. Let's get on to Unishe April because that's his after Hirer Ankti. That's the Unishe April was the first big film that came on the screen,
that
so
was
to say.
actually the big film. I mean, that was the one which caused more stir. Tiranti did, but not that much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what happened is before all this, when Rituparno was dabbling in films, he was very keen on it. This is what Ram did. He said, "Why don't you form a film company then?" You know, and Ram had this thing
Okay.
about digital response and direct response, and there
Mm-hmm.
was
Yeah.
tele-response. So he said, Abeer, you meet with Rituparno and see how you can figure out the finances of this and that. And of course, Ram wasn't putting in any money there. When so Rituparno took me to Tollyganj. We went to the Tollyganj club. We wanted to be away. And under this mango tree, we sat and he read out the whole script to me. I said, right, this is a great one. So how are you going to go about it? He said, we need money. So he got Aparna Sen into the response office. And we talked about it and setting up of tele-response. And I realized this was not going to go anywhere because you need some money to get the film going, and there was no sign of any money.
Okay, but then the film making. I mean, was he taking long leaves from office, or was he still he was leave without pay or live with pay, or and where did you, Anjana, how did you find the time?
Leave without notice as well.
Yeah, but Ram was quite indulgent about that. So he thought it was part of the way creativity worked. He didn't mind.
Okay.
As for me, very frankly, Shujit, I've written novels sitting in advertising. So writing Rituparno's subtitles just was part of the same thing. You don't work non-stop on advertising when you're there.
No,
you have other time and then you do whatever, which is equally creative.
But tell me something, how was it to work with him? And thereafter you worked with him right till, as far as films are concerned, he left advertising and he was full-time into cinema, and you kept on working with him. How was it to work with Ritu, the filmmaker?
Well, it started with working with Rituparno as Rituparno. I mean, I think we hit it off, because he said, you're as fast a copywriter in English as I am in Bengali. So that was one. He'd never met a faster English copywriter. And he was the first Bengali copywriter I was running into, I think. HTA, I hadn't paid much attention. So we kind of hit it off. We discussed many things. We discussed books. He talked about his film ideas, and because I wrote stories, it was a connect. And that connect, I mean, I just think we worked very well together.
Okay, that's saying a lot. But
it was a friendship of sorts, which lasted because Rituparno has at one point given me a whole bunch of costume jewelry out of sheer love because he knew I wore bangles and stuff. He would take my father to the hospital and bring him back if that was required. All these things happened.
I see. Okay. But now that this book has come out, scripts, I'll come to the book a little later, but there's something I find that a large number of his films are not included in this book, Translating for Rituparno. For example, in fact, Unishe April is not there, Dohon is not there, Badiwali, Ashok. So why are they not there? That's because,
Hire Rangti, Unishe April and Dohon. Please realize the work I did on the response computer was Hire Rangti. Then I left and I did Dohon on Unishe April on somebody else's computer, because in those days I didn't have my own computer. That was too early for people to have their own desktops and laptops. So the result is the stuff was being emailed to Rituparno, but I didn't have the copies, the soft copies of the scripts. So those went. Then Badiwali, Titli and Oi went to Chandadi, who was actually also was Rituparno's mentor. So he thought he should give her a hand with it. So she had Badiwali, Titli, Ashok, Abohaman, and some of the others which are not there. Now Chandadi had a different problem. I guess, Titli and Badiwali, she didn't have a computer. Thereupon, for the rest, she had them on her desktop and the computer crashed.
Computer crashed?
Yeah. So
Abeer, computer crash. Just imagine, when this priceless stuff just crashed out of the
so her
system.
scripts went to hell and high water because when I was bringing this out, I said, Chandali, do you have those scripts? In which case we can
Hmm,
do a companion volume.
hmm, hmm,
So
hmm.
she told me this story.
Okay, I understand you didn't have a desktop. You were going from agency to agency using their desktop for the first few films. And Chandadi's hard disk crash, which used to happen very often in those days. Hard disk crashing. Remember, Abhi, we couldn't
Yeah.
make it to the client because the hard disk had crashed, whatever that meant. And it was later used as a good excuse. Sorry, sir, my hard disk has crashed. My engineer is coming to repair it. But where are the original Banglas which must have been written by hand?
No, the screenplays, yeah, I have some odd handwriting bits floating here and there, but ultimately what he used to do was to give us a bound চিত্রনাট্য. তো সেই
তো সেই
চিত্রনাট্যগুলো আছে কোথাও, but to get the original subtitles is not possible, no? You'll have to retranslate.
this, in which case, let me ask you, this book of translation, you have the characters, you have the plot, you have also have the translation of the script.
I
It
have
is,
the translate, yeah.
it is not just subtitles. So you have had to translate the Chitranattu in any case. Let's say for last year, Khala, whatever, the whole raincoat.
I was given the Chitranattu, so I would
Hmm,
do that translation and I would do the dialogues. Thereupon, if the dialogues needed any shortening, I'd be taken
hmm.
to the editing studio and made to edit. So
Okay.
that was how that went. Actually, the longest of the scripts is Chokher Wali, which Hondaji did a lot of, which is why it's an elaborate one. If you realize the later ones are more dialogue than script because
Hmm.
he realized it was faster that way. So I would take the Chitranattu, translate what was there, do the dialogues, and pass it on to him. And
So yeah,
obviously,
I agree with you, because last year and raincoat are more lot of dialogues happening. They were not like Dohon, like the or for that matter, Bariwuli also was, yeah, but there was a cinematic treatment to it. I get what you're saying, but uh, just a question that just cropped up just now is that in my mind is that uh, have all his films been archived and maintained, or have some of them got lost? Like many good films, many classics are lost. But I hope, because he started in 1992. This is 2024, 32 years.
yeah,
I hope all his films, I mean, you all will know better, all his films, I hope, are conserved and preserved and
they
archived.
are
And
they are there because producers have them. You'll find some on YouTube. The only one which
yeah.
was a mess was Sunglass. I don't know what he
Mm.
did with the producer of Sunglass. He kept shifting here and there. Ultimately, it became a very funny thing called Pak Jhank, which I saw at a film festival in Nandun, actually,
Oh,
but it has never been released.
oh, I see.
And yeah, and then there was
Okay.
Plan Man Motion Pictures,
Ha ha ha.
which
Which has gone
died.
into,
Yeah,
which died. I mean, which was
exactly.
taken off the system altogether.
So
Ha ha
whatever
ha.
Plan Man stuff is still floating around somewhere. I mean, the
I hope.
films are around. Archived? No.
No. Okay. I mean, a question for you over here. You as the boss man in response, sitting there with Ramda hovering around here and there, and here is a Rituparno, who is your one of your creative talents, Bangla, Bigapon. You mentioned about that Fun Munch and Tarage Fruity, and then into so many other things. And I must tell you, at one point of time when we were in Kolkata, but we were not in response, I mean, not working for response. I used to have my Saturday sessions with Ramda. That's another story. But the Saturday morning, 10 o'clock. Uh, but the question is that at this point of time, we thought that everything that was being done, every Bangla Bignapon that was coming out of response was Rituparno's, because
Rituparno.
it became like that. So much so that once I was into some situation where there was a big debate. I overheard on who has done this Margot Dekhte Kharap Makhte Bhalo. And of course, recently I read somewhere that Ramda had assigned the creative team there to generate a name bank for his daughter to be born. And I think everybody had to suggest names, and Ritu's name ultimately was picked up from the.
I think Ritu churned out all the names. You know, he was really fast. He was a
Yeah,
quick guy
exactly. That's
in
what.
advertising. And I remember one dialogue in early times. You know, Ram called him and said, "Rituparno, to me, Kurita film 10 minute likhe amok
Likhe
dao."
dao.
Key film?
So write 20 scripts in 10 minutes. In 10 minutes, and come and see me. So Rituparno, one thing was he was very bold, a brave guy. He said, "I'm Parvana. You know, I can't do it." He said, "Kota parbe." Bolo, ami 10টা parbo 10 minute. That's also like crazy.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But talking about boldness, there was the time he called up Satyajit Ray. You know, and those days, those phones, and he called up, and Satyajit Ray picked up the phone, and he said, and he introduced himself. And some response, he said, "Jani," and he said, "Apnar chobita amra ekta biggapone ব্যবহার করতে চাই." So there was silence, and then he said, "Nah." "Na mane?" He said, the response said, "Na mane?" "Na, amar chobi biggapone ব্যবহার হবে না." Not my. I'm not going to give you my picture for your advertising campaign. Then Rituparno said in his inimitable style, "Apnar chhobi খালি বলছেন কেন বলুন তো, এটা আমাদেরও ছবি." He said, "Why you keep on saying it's your film? It's our film. It's our chhobi. So it's not film or photograph was not being distinguished." And then there was a silence, and then Mr. Satyajit Ray said, "Acha, okay." Meant that he understood that what he wanted seen from the film.
Yeah, exactly. Where he thought
he was the only guy, he was a daring guy, because the only guy who called Ram Ray Mr. Rai.
Oh, acha, Mr. Rai. Acha. That's a very interesting story. I mean, I didn't know that because I know of a story where Satyajit Ray had almost kind of signed up with a brand for one of the endorsement ads, and then in the last minute the whole thing got cancelled. It left a very bad taste everywhere. That's another story.
He must have thought Rituparno was going to have Borlin wrapped up on his
But initially when you were narrating the story, I was also thinking that he must have thought ki amar chobi mane amar photograph. Like that way. But he meant chobi. Yes, that's very correct. But tell me something, Abeer. You were there till 1997. By 1997. Rituparno had gone into the horn. He had become Rituparno. Everybody was, he had made his footprint, he had marked it. How was then you handling him in the agency? You saw him come in as a fresher, do his creative.
It was tough because, I had to look after, deadlines and things like that. So it was, it was very difficult. But, that was Rituparno. But he was doing something great. And finally, he moved on and he made the film. And in fact, he asked me to act in that film. No. So I went there somewhere. I don't know. I forget Taratolo or somewhere. I went there, and he said, "You have to act as that advertising agency head. You have to act like Ram." I said, "What are you talking about? Why should I act like?" Anyway, So anyway, but he gave me the credit, but he sliced that part of the film, which was similar to Bariwali, because the Bariwali, she acted in the film, and just like I messaged him. I said, "Well, this seems quite biographical, what you've done." But then while on it, suddenly I get a call from Sanjay Nag, who was his friend. And he called to say that, Rituparno asked me to call you. We are making a movie called Memories in March. Yeah. So we'd like you to play a small role there. I said, "Anything for Rituparno, but why isn't Rituparno calling me?" He said he's feeling shy. Lajja pache. I said, Rituparno lajja pache? Then Rituparno came on the line because he loved that. And then I went to shoot that film in Ram's room, in response. I mean, he was, shorn of all the bit of glamour that he had collected. He was just that old young copywriter. And he was so excited to see me there. And he was so like childish and, ecstatic. And he took me around the office. And he was very fond of Response. And I think he remained a part of Response, even after he left.
Exactly. I mean, and Rituparno and Response have always gone together till the end. And
even beyond the agency,
of course,
the
agency. It went beyond the agency. And of course, in all sin, that was at 49-50, that was no age to go. But well, that's something that we'll all have to. But Anjana, coming back to you, the translations. Okay, you started with, it was Chokhet Bali, Raincoat, Antur Mahal, Doshor. I think these are the ones that have been covered last year. Go on, tell me.
No. Last year, we said, English dialogue likhte hobe, tui likhish. I said, what exactly am I supposed to be writing? Because obviously, for Rituparno, you write the dialogue, he obviously knows what he wants for the dialogue. So we would have this phone conversation every morning from 7 o'clock till 7:30 when he knew I would go to office. Then after I'd finished changing, I'd be back on the phone. And until I went to office, we would be busy doing dialogues. That was a kind of habit. In fact, many of the scripts got written that way. So, and lastly, being English, and then he had things like Shakespearean actor ki kore kore. So I gave him an explanation. I said, ei shono, oi shono, utpol dotto shono. And he then, Amitabh Bachchan turned up. He said, oh, jodi na pare, toke ami niye jabo oke coach korte. I said, good God. This is like getting somewhere weird. Anyway, in any case, that didn't happen. So, that was last year, which was English. Anyway.
But what about these films? I see from the list of content that is there in the book, there is Games and Borapar and Kala. Okay, Games is Kala. Okay, Games is Kala.
Borapar was the original name of Memories in March.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh.
Like Curtain Call was the original name of last year. So I have a lot of odd things with odd names, which became other things later on.
Oh.
So this is you'd call these the source material for any work of Rituparno.
Right. Okay. Now, when did this concept, the whole idea of this book come about, and why did Jadavpur University Press come in as the publisher?
Actually, when Rituparno was still around, he was pestering me about Toke Andrew Robinson hote hobe. So I said, right. But they said, tui to amar shooting eo ashish na, ar tar opore tui to amar golpo guno niye galagala dis. Which is true. I occasionally told him I thought his stories needed tweaking. He said, therefore, you are not a fan. I said, no, I'm a friend. So that's something different. Then I said, look, what about all this stuff I've been doing for you? Why don't we put that together and publish it? So he said, I am more than translation. I said, yeah, I agree, but there is all this work. Surely that amounts to something. Ota kore kore, jhagda kore, at the end of it, he was gone. And I was left doing Shatun Neshi, which I said I have to do since I started with him. I must end with it. thereupon I thought, okay, if Rituparna has a reputation, let me try some of these universities abroad which have film studies which might want this. Unfortunately, I was told very firmly that no, he is not Satyajit Ray.
Oh,
So I said, okay, I agree he messed up his life before he got there. Then, having thought about it, I said, let me try JU Press because he's a Jadavpur alumni. And Jadavpur Press was very happy. They said, yes, yes, yes. And why have you come to us? This is a very big book. So I told them this story. So they said, okay. So that's where that is.
I see. Okay. But which year did this Jadavpur University and your deal with them started?
That started 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
Jadavpur is a bit slow on things, but they will tell me we are very busy. Okay, I'll grant them that.
Okay, okay, but at least they stood up and agreed to bring out the. Do you see? No.
Yeah.
Well, no. I'm saying at least they did the effort to bring out the book finally.
Having said it was a big book, one of their famed alumni, I don't suppose they could not have.
Right.
I mean, it's an ego thing as well. No? You cannot not do it. And now they're even saying if you can find your missing scripts, we will do another version.
Now, Abeer, what do you think? There should be another book, right? A companion volume.
Yeah, why not?
If she can find the scripts.
Yeah.
Yes, why not? And why not?
I'm sure a lot of film scholars and film buffs would be very keen to read that because, yeah.
Absolutely. So I think, Anjana, you should look for, you should continue your dialogue with them. Only thing is, I know you'll have a lot of hard time trying to collate those bits and pieces of paper and what have you. One point here again, other than the scripts that we have talked about, and that includes Chitrangoda, the growing Vation. There is an interesting note made by in the introduction by Shoma A. Chatterjee that the three films, some of the films in which he has also acted, and incidentally, the first film in which he acted was a film in Udia in 2003. Some Ritu, some tongue twister name, whatever it means. And then came this Arekti Premier Golpo.
Arekti Premier Golpo, yeah, which had many other names before it got there. Arekti Premier Golpo was actually co-written with Kaushik Ganguly, which is why it's not in this book. One required Kaushik Ganguly's permission to use it, even though the script was changed majorly. There was that. Then there was Chitrangoda. And then Memories in March, and those were his three transgender films, shall we say, which have actually sadly distracted people from the bulk of his work because there's a lot of noise being made about those three films. And well, that's what.
Well, Abeer, have you seen Memories in March, that film that you
yes, I have.
You have seen the film. Do you think that film should be really up in OTT, or all these three films on the third gender should be up on OTT? Because what Anjana says is a little alarming. That I know what we know.
Of course, Of course, they should be there. They're very good films. I mean, one of my favorite films is that. That Arekti Premier Golpo. But I think, yes, he did get very self-indulgent, but it was a personal journey, the filmmaking, and his earlier themes dwelled on it. I think it was very emotional, and he kind of was expressing his own loneliness and alienation, his earlier films. And then he became very bold and in your face about it. So it was, he was living a fairly troubled life, if I may say, And
Yes,
and that
yes.
has to express, because the film is something very subjective, and it has to express that. And he just pulled out all the stops. So some people might like it, some people may not, but I think they are certainly,
No,
need
no,
to,
they have
needs
their
to
own
be available.
value.
Yeah,
They have
they
their
need to be
own value. They are available. My point is that a certain section of people chose to make them more important than the other films, which isn't fair.
That's fair. That's fine. But the films should be
That's
there for
all.
anyone to see.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's okay. But by the end of Chitrangada, he asked me, তোর তো ভাল লাগেনি? I said, তোমাকে ধস্তাধস্তি করতে আমার ভাল দেখতে আমার ভাল লাগে না. And I don't think my mother would have liked it. She said, হ্যাঁ, সেটা সত্যি. You see, Shujit, we had this relationship, no? So
I
therefore,
understand.
and in any case, he began to realize after Chitrangada that he was beginning to lose his audience, which is why he suddenly
Ah,
hopped onto Bomkesh. Not
yeah,
that,
okay.
not that Chotanneshi was exactly well.
Bhumkesh.
Yeah, well,
But
he wasn't well, and I don't know.
and
Yeah.
this is a very personal opinion on Ritu's work. Is that the earlier body of work, and I'd love to go back and see Chitrangada and Memories of March or Arekti Premier Kolpo, but the ones we are talking right now. But
Sorry, but Memories in March had nothing to do with his sexuality.
with
No,
sexuality.
that
Fair
was
enough.
just a gay
There was an
creativity.
incident that actually happened
Okay.
here,
All right.
and
Okay.
and it was very interesting, the story with Deepthi Naval. Yeah.
That was, yeah.
Yeah. So, but somehow I had this is my personal opinion that the Dohon, then Orisha April, Utshab, Titli, I think he had this amazing capacity of taking on the middle class Bengali, the middle class elitist educated Bengali, even getting Shujita Mitro, I think, to act in one of the movies, where she was that old grandmother who was visited once in a while. I think that was, if I'm not mistaken, that was Dohon, possibly.
Dohon.
Dohon. And his settings were very, the kind of houses, ছোটবেলায় গিয়েছি এখানে ওই বড় মাসি থাকতো type of বাড়ি's, his settings, his furnitures. After some time, I loved Raincoat because it had a drama of its own, and halfway down the line we realized that okay, he has done a Gift of the Magi, so, and we wanted to see where this is going, in Raincoat for that matter. But তারপরে ছবিগুলো I was not finding them to be, because I was looking at him as that middle class educated Bengali, which he understood, and he had the nerves, he had the pulse of our pulse so very right in his fingertips, that I think that was missing. Leah was fun to watch, but then what happens is that at some point of time, a lot of these directors who have really made it, and you still see his film because you think that এটা তো দেখতেই হবে, এটা ঋতু's ছবি, or by that logic. But yes, Chokher Bali had I was finding that a lot of my non-Bengali friends in Delhi also were discussing Chokher Bali. A, they probably didn't very clearly understand the film, and B, Aishwarya Rai was making a kind of a difference in terms of suddenly Ritu was on the kind of the national scene, so to say. Okay, now there is one before we end, and there is one small extract which I want to just read out. Just hang on over there. I just want to read this out. This is something I picked up in that introduction to the book, Anjana. And by the way, the book is currently available with Flipkart, and I'm sure this will soon be available on Amazon. Am I right, Anjana?
I hope so. Otherwise, you can pick it up. I believe it's on College Street now.
Oh, it's on College Street now. Okay.
For those here, and also available in Jadavpur.
Okay, I have of course had to use the Flipkart channel because okay, yeah. Okay, but here is a small little tract I wanted to read. This is how Dr. Chatterjee, Shoma A. Chatterjee, has concluded her introduction. She says that it would perhaps be fit to end with Rituparno's personal notes on the evolution of the fairy tale from old times to now. In translation, this reads as follows. To tell fairy tales in our cinema has almost become extinct. Nowadays, fairy tales mean sci-fi, Ravan, or imitation of Spielberg's E.T. Films like Guga Baba, even Sham Benegal's Charandas Shore are no longer made. The simple, innocent times ended with Malgudi days. Nowadays, city means sleek and villages broken down, and cinema means advanced and fast-paced. Well, that's what this translation may be yours, Anjana,
Yeah.
but it struck me that yes, there is a huge lot of truth in that. What I just read out about what fairy tales means today. It's really no longer the monkey and the crow and rest of it.
Yeah.
And even Bhodur Bahadur, or we all grew up. So we should look up to that. We should start looking at the next issue, next companion volume, Anjana.
Provided those scripts are ever found, I don't know.
I think we should all try, and I mean, whatever we can is to try and see where. Of course, I mean, it's a big thing because you're the only person who is a custodian of those scripts. I mean, that's the reality and the truth of it, because only you can do it. I mean, this is something that it's not like scattered all over, but we'll have to keep pushing you. What say, Abeer? I think we'll have to keep pushing her to get on to that.
I chased Renu Roy for April because she was a producer. She has sold the thing, and she said, no, I have no script. So she's still upset that she doesn't have the script to give me. Anyway.
Yeah, go for it, Anjana.
Go for it. Okay. So I think we had one of our common friends, Abeer, Bikram Shen, our friend Bikram.
Yeah.
He came to my place, and we had a number of drinks, and we went out to eat somewhere, where the first thing the waiter said, "Saab, kya piyoge?" And he put the glasses and all, and Bikram used the word in English. He told him, "Excuse me, we are comprehensively drunk." So by using that comprehensively drunk, I think we have had a very comprehensive discussion on Rituparno's Rituparno's books, I mean, his films, the translation. And frankly, Anjana, I think this has been a great job. I think all of us, Abeer and I'm sure Abeer joins me, and so do all our colleagues in advertising and not in advertising, who are into Rituparno's films and into cinema as a whole. I think there a lot of gratitude to you for having taken the trouble, and also Jadavpur University Press for having put it together. And I can. There's one thing that is coming out, came out into this very personal, but I said that why was I not in response, just to hang around there at that point of time, not like doing a job? What fun was happening? Yeah, because, it was, response was a fun place. And with so many talents all over the place in response, it must have been a great place to be in. And you all have had that.
Yeah, it was.
It was.
Yeah, it was. You all had that. You all had that opportunity, and you all are so lucky. Right? So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Anjana. Thank you, Abeer, for joining us at Kahaaniadda. I hope we will again meet up somewhere in some adda or the other on something. And to my audience, this will be up on YouTube in case any of your friends do call up. From tomorrow, I'll put up the link in the Kahaaniadda page. You all can tell your friends to go and see this on YouTube. It will be there. And keep protesting in Kolkata. We are looking forward to something really big happening. I couldn't but help and say that we are wanting a change. Simple as that. So thank you very much. And thank you everybody for being with us at Kahaaniadda. Thanks, Abeer. Thanks, Anjana.
Thanks.